Let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 50, the 10 to 5. A touchdown with Virginia. He did it. He did it.
That's with White. Beavers and he's gone. Touchdown. Tavon Austin.
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sounds of Golden Blue football.
They want to have a 7-on-7 drill. We want to make it a fist fight. Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football.
From the heart. Streaming. It's Mountaineer pride.
Once a Mountaineer, always a Mountaineer.
Leave no doubt tonight. No doubt. They shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue.
West Virginia is a special place. People of the state that have great pride in this WV logo.
Ain't no stopping the Golden Blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
And now it's the show brought to you by Mountaineer fans for Mountaineer fans, the Country Roads Webcast. What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into episode 177 of the CRW podcast here for our BYU preview and predictions episode. Coming at you a little bit later in the week, but it's been a bit of a crazy week for everyone involved here at the Country Roads Webcast, but wanted to get you guys out this episode still before kickoff as West Virginia welcomes BYU into Morgantown this week. Second ever matchup between these two programs. Should be a fun one, and we're going to break it down complete with key to victory and score predictions here momentarily, and we will take a look around at some other Big 12 games and make some picks for those happening around the conference as well. But before we do all of that, we got to lead this episode off the way we always like to, and that's with a little bit of Mountaineer news. All right, leading off Mountaineer news, kind of the biggest topic this week has been the release of the Big 12 schedule for the next few years. Now that we know we're going to have the large number of conference opponents with Texas and Oklahoma leaving after this year, adding the 4 Pac-12 schools. So it's going to be interesting to see how things shake out. And in regards to how things shook out scheduling-wise, I know there's been a lot of complaints from WVU fans, and rightfully so in some regards, the biggest one being Houston getting to avoid the return trip to Morgantown next season. We won't see Dana Holgorsen make the trek to Morgantown in 2024, unfortunately. As you see here, if you're watching on the video version, I'm sharing the picture that West Virginia showed in their announcement from the Big 12 about West Virginia's schedule, which kind of shows West Virginia's conference opponents for the next 4 seasons. We don't know the dates yet, but we know who they will play home and away. And if you look here, 2024, I will read off for you guys. And in 2024, the home games for West Virginia in the conference will be Baylor, UCF, Iowa State, Kansas, and Kansas State. And then West Virginia will travel on the road to Arizona, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech. So West Virginia does get 7 home games in 2024. That's the positive side of this, and that's kind of the way it will shake out for West Virginia in 2024 at least. And we'll see how many of these future schedules remain true. You know, a lot of this is always in flux with how conference realignment works. It could shift at any moment, but I'd say the 2024 schedule is at least set in stone for now. West Virginia, we know the teams that they will play. Now we just await the dates on when they will play those teams, as West Virginia's 2024 schedule specifically should be released in the near future now that we know exactly who they will play. We just have to find out when, but there's an update on the Mountaineer football schedules of the future here in Mountaineer news. Now let's move on to some more game-specific notes and some more news regarding this year's Mountaineer football season specifically. And we'll lead that off with an injury update. Of course, the biggest piece of that being Doug Nestor will not play Saturday for the Mountaineers, unfortunately. Going to miss this game, and West Virginia still looking to get that offensive line back playing, full strength. They had it for about 19 snaps last game prior to Nestor's injury. He's on track to return, hopefully, for the next contest there, as West Virginia will look to seek his services back, as he's a big part of this offensive line and, been a starter all season. But we'll be without Doug Nestor, so shout out to Nick Malone alone. A couple of weeks ago, he was wearing number 88, lining up as a tight end. Then he had to jump into the starting role at left tackle, and now he's going to jump into the starting role at right tackle for the Mountaineers in this game. So shout out to him doing a great job filling in on that offensive line. We will get Hudson Clement back from injury. That's a bit of the positive injury news for West Virginia, and potentially Hershey McLaurin as well could return and play at that spear, it sounds like. So some positive injury news there, but then we are bookending it with the negative side as Joffre Veras, the will linebacker for West Virginia, had been doing some reserve duty there since the injury to Trey Lathan and doing a pretty good job spelling people, and I believe he's played on special teams a lot this season as well. Unfortunately, his injury, they have learned, is season ending. He's going to have surgery, so he will be out for the remainder of the year. So just add him to the list. West Virginia continues to have defensive players be knocked out for the season, and Joffre Veras is unfortunately the latest there as we provide an injury update here on Mountaineer News. And then next up here to round out Mountaineer News, we have a couple of scheduling notes to touch on. I always like to share the kickoff time of West Virginia's next game, which in this case will be Oklahoma on the road. But yet again, the Big 12 has announced they're utilizing the 6-day window for that game, so we will not know the kickoff time for West Virginia's game against Oklahoma until this coming Sunday. So be on the lookout for that on social media to find out just when West Virginia will kick off against the Sooners in their next contest following this one against BYU. But in regards to this game against BYU, there's a bit of a scheduling note there as well. Take a look at this here to round out Mountaineer News. And that is, if you haven't heard, there has been a network change on the television side for this game between West Virginia and BYU. Previously scheduled to be on FS1. Still the same kickoff time, 7 p.m. Eastern kick there Saturday night. Night game atmosphere in Morgantown, going to be awesome. Hopefully get that nighttime Mountaineer magic. But instead of the game being televised on FS1, it has been upgraded and is going to be televised on Fox, the primary channel there. So with the World Series ending early, not going to a Game 6 or a Game 7, that allowed this game to move up from FS1 to Fox, as you see here, shared by our friends over at WVSportsNow.com. Network upgrade, BYU at WVU at 7 p.m. will now air on Fox. So good to see West Virginia getting another primetime game here. They've played on ABC, ESPN, Fox, and NBC this season. So West Virginia spread out across all of the major networks and really getting a lot of good exposure this season, and great to see it happening again this Saturday night for this game against BYU. And shout out to our friends over at WVSportsNow.com for covering this, as they do a great job covering so many things in regards to Mountaineer sports. Be sure check them out on the web there, where you can also find the video version of our show, and we appreciate you tuning into that there and appreciative of them and being a part of the Sports Now family of network. And if you do choose to watch the video versions, we ask that you just do us a quick favor, hit that thumbs up button, giving us a like on the video really helps a ton. And if you're a West Virginia fan, Big 12 fan, college football fan, be sure and subscribe as well. Helps us, helps you, helps get more of this Mountaineer sports content out to Mountaineer Nation. But we appreciate you if you listen to the audio version as well. You can find that on any podcast platform you like: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, you name it. Just search for the Country Roads Webcast and you can find us there. Leave us a rating and review. That helps us on that side. And you can share us around with other Mountaineer fans that you may know. And with no further ado, I guess that will pretty much wrap us up on Mountaineer News. Now let's dive in here, talk a little bit about this matchup with BYU, and provide our key to victory and score predictions here for Game 9 of the WVU football season. All right, Mountaineer Nation. So West Virginia will take on BYU in Morgantown, of course, November 4th, as I said, 7 o'clock kick time, televised on Fox. It will be the true blue game for West Virginia. Also Military Appreciation Day, and we're going to see Chuck Howley get enshrined there into the Ring of Honor at West Virginia and be recognized. So great to see that happening as well throughout the game. So plenty of reasons to attend if you're a West Virginia fan, and plenty of storylines heading into this one as well. And that's where we'll kick this off matchup-wise. Let's take a look at the BYU offense against the West Virginia defense, because due to the time we are recording this, coming at you a little bit later in the week, we have the luxury of now knowing that Keaton Slovis, of course, the BYU quarterback that I think a lot of Mountaineer fans were excited to see West Virginia get a chance to play and get to see him, face WVU in Morgantown after his disparaging comments about our great state last year prior to the backyard brawl when he was at Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, West Virginia fans will not get to see that happen and get to see those wishes granted, as Keaton Slovis will be out for this game. And instead Instead, BYU will turn to quarterback Jake Retzlaff to make his first start at BYU. He was the number 1 graded quarterback at the JUCO ranks last season. Also, he's a little bit more mobile than Keaton Slovis was, so may give West Virginia a little bit something more to worry about in that aspect as far as his athleticism, and that could provide BYU with a little bit of a boost to their run game, which is something they could use. Their run game has struggled throughout most of this season, and a lot of that has been due to, some of their offensive line struggles. They've moved some guys in and out of that lineup there. They do have one solid player there at the tackle position, but if we've been looking for a get-right game for West Virginia's defensive pass rush, this could be a potential chance for them to try and do just that, and they're going to need to do so, I think, because this BYU offense has been good through the air this season, and I don't know, if that will continue with Retzlaff. I think the BYU fans would certainly like to think that it would, because they were really down on Slovis, and this is a change that I think that they are happy to see, although it's not coming, because of Slovis's performance. It's obviously due to injury. They are saying that Slovis is battling an injury right now and will be unable to play in the game. And it appears like that is the case for several players on that BYU offense, actually. A couple of offensive linemen, a couple other big-time receivers who have really made some tough catches this season, and that's kind of the advantage they did have on West Virginia was size. Those wide receivers and tight ends they have a big size advantage on the Mountaineers, and they've made contested catches this year. Sounds like their top 2 wide receivers may be out this game for the Cougars, so that could hurt their offense a little bit, but you could also see them rely a good bit more on their tight end, Isaac Rex, who has been an absolute weapon for them the past couple of seasons. I know he's left a little bit to be desired this season as opposed to how successful he was, in prior years, but he really is still a weapon that's going to be an NFL player that West Virginia certainly has to account for with his great size there, 6'8", and he's going to be a guy that they maybe even target more in this game with them missing some guys on the outside there. And as I said, their rushing offense has struggled a bit this season, and their lead running back, unfortunately, is dealing with, a similar problem to Keaton Slovis. He's a bit banged up. I believe he's going to give it a go in this game, but we'll see how it turns out for LJ Martin. But if things don't pan out for him, they do have another running back that they like to use, and he's a big bruiser that can really hurt you, and that's Aiden Robbins. We might see more of him in this game, so could be a different look for the BYU offense than anyone else has really had to see, because we could see, Jake Retzlaff and more Aiden Robbins together there in the backfield as cohorts. So we'll see how that works out for BYU. And we know they'd love to get the running game going. West Virginia's run defense, not been the best in recent weeks, but I thought they really took a big step forward last week against a very tough to stop UCF offense. They were doing a lot better in their run fits and things like that. So that bodes well. I think with the injuries that BYU is dealing with on the offensive side, be it Keaton Slovis, but especially some of the skill position players and potentially being down some offensive linemen, and where that is an area that they've already struggled this season is in blocking, and one of the reasons their offense has struggled at times. I think West Virginia actually has an advantage here, defense versus BYU's offense. So chalk that one up on the Mountaineer side if you're checking off these matchups. And let's flip it over the other way, talk about the West Virginia offense matching up with this BYU defense. And I think we're looking at a West Virginia offense that's obviously really hit its stride in recent weeks. They've scored over 30 plus in the past 3 games. And I think with the injuries to the BYU offense, West Virginia really just needs to try and keep that same formula going. If they can score, 30 plus in this game, I think they have a great chance to win, because you wonder if the BYU offense will be able to hold pace due to some of those injuries they have to deal with on that side of the football in this game. So West Virginia's offense, if they can, continue to play the way they have in recent weeks, you like their chances on this side as well. But having said that, the BYU defense does have one piece that should certainly scare West Virginia a lot, and that's Tyler Batty. He's an edge rusher that can provide a ton of pressure, and I think the one reason that it makes it extra worrisome for West Virginia in this matchup is because what I talked about during the injury report in Mountaineer News, and that is no Doug Nestor for West Virginia at that right tackle spot. He provides a lot of pressure. They'll move Batty around, but you got to think they may be looking to single up that matchup with Malone against Batty. The Cougars probably feel like that's a matchup they could take advantage of in this game. So for West Virginia, how do you combat that? I think they have a good way to do that. They have some tight ends that have really helped a lot, not only in the run blocking game, but in the pass blocking game when they've needed to as well. So don't be surprised to see Traylon Davis over there, lining up attached to help Nick Malone at times in this game if they do try and line Tyler Batty up on that side. And the West Virginia tight ends fans are going to have to do a good job in pass protection in this game, as well as the West Virginia running backs. It's going to be a good game for them to help with blitz pickup. BYU is probably going to blitz West Virginia more than any other defense they've played this season. You're going to get a lot of press man coverage on the outside. West Virginia is going to have to try and, deal with getting separation there. They've shown the ability to do that, mainly utilizing a lot of motion and a lot of bunch sets in the game plan. That's really helped them. I'm expecting West Virginia to do that again in this game because they're probably expecting heavy blitz from BYU, a lot of man-to-man stuff. So West Virginia's wide receivers are going to need to be on point, and they're going to have chances to make plays in this game. They've just got to go make them. BYU is going to pin their ears back, so Garrett Green's got to put the football in play, give our guys a chance to go make a play, and they're going to have an opportunity to do so. But Garrett Green's just going to have his head on his swivel, and lucky for West Virginia, he's playing the best football of his career right now at this point, and hopefully he's able to handle that BYU pressure. I think if he is able to handle it, West Virginia's got a great chance in this game. Another downside to bringing that pressure is if BYU goes cover 0, West Virginia can make, one man miss on these running plays and explode, for some big explosive running plays. So I'm looking for maybe Jaheim White to get, some more action in this game as he did last game. And if BYU sends one of those blitzes, it could be a house call for Jaheim White in this one. So I'm expecting some explosive plays from the West Virginia offense in this game. And because the fact that they've shown in recent weeks they can be explosive, I'm not too worried about this BYU pressure, although it could cause some problems if West Virginia's pass protection starts to break down. But West Virginia's only given up 4 sacks thus far in the entire season. So hopefully, knock on wood, that holds true for this game. If so, I think it is yet again advantage West Virginia in both of these areas. So, maybe a little bit of a spoiler alert already when you see I'm giving the Mountaineers the advantage in both of these matchups. And I think special teams as well. I'll call it a wash just to not give the Mountaineers the advantage in every area, but I like the way West Virginia's played there in recent weeks. I think it was Jed Drenning put a stat out on Twitter that BYU's punter has had a high percentage of his punts returned. So when Preston Fox has been given an opportunity, he's made plays there. So look out for Preston Fox making a play on special teams, potentially in the punt return game in this one as well. But, I got advantage Mountaineers in a lot of these matchups, some of it because of injury concerns at a bad time for BYU. Also, the fact that they're having to, come back across country again to play the Mountaineers. Luckily, the Big 12 looked out and at least made it a night game instead of an early contest. But I certainly think their fans are going to travel well, so hopefully our fans are there and ready. But the West Virginia Mountaineers actually on paper look like they have a good matchup in this one. So let's get into my key to victory and to my score prediction as to if I think West Virginia will be able to, take advantage of those matchups where it looks like they have an edge and ultimately come out on top of this one. Let's talk about it now. Key to victory and score predictions here on episode 177 of the CRW podcast. All right, my key to victory in this one, I think I kind of spoiled it a little bit when I was talking about the matchups for West Virginia's offense in this game. But for me, it's score 30 points again. If you score over 30 points in this game, I love West Virginia's chances to win this one. A lot of that is due to the injuries that BYU is dealing with on the offensive side of the football. But also, I think West Virginia's offense has just shown the ability to be very explosive the past few weeks. And it's something that a lot of teams may struggle to keep up with if West Virginia can really put their foot on the gas. So I hope in this game they really do just that. I hope that they come out with that same mentality that Neil Brown talked about last week, where he wanted to come out and say, shoot or shoot, and let's go out and shoot our shot in this game. I think you come out in this game and you want to start fast on offense. You want to be able to rack up some yards and some points and have that explosiveness to you, keep that swagger you got going on the offensive side. And I think if West Virginia does that, they've got a great chance to win this game. So my key to victory for West Virginia, score 30 plus points again on offense. And as far as my prediction, do I think they will do that? I actually do. I've got West Virginia winning this one, and as the old adage goes, what is it? Good teams win, great teams cover. I think this West Virginia team has the potential to be a great team this season. Certainly one of the better ones we've seen in quite some time. And look at us right now, favored by double digits in a game here in November, and with the win would be bowl eligible the first weekend in November. And it's been a long time since we've had the opportunity to say that as Mountaineer fans. So certainly this is a game that we should be very excited for. It's also the penultimate home game, of course, only one more home game remaining after this one. So I think that there's a lot of factors going into this game that line up in West Virginia's favor. And because of that reason, I've got them winning this game and I've got them covering that spread. I've got West Virginia coming out on top of this one, 35-20. All right, so there's my thoughts on the West Virginia side of things as far as the matchups and my key to victory and score prediction for this game against BYU as West Virginia looks to secure their 6th win of the season. But there are certainly some other very good conference games going on this weekend as well. So let's take a look at some of those as we wrap up episode 177 with our final segment by taking a look around the Big 12. All right, as I stated earlier in the episode, releasing this one a little bit later in the week than we normally do. And because of that, we actually already have one Big 12 game that's wrapped this week. We had a Thursday night contest between TCU and Texas Tech. I watched this one. It was actually a pretty fun and entertaining game to watch. Bit of a back and forth, but at the end, Texas Tech's able to come out on top. Josh Hoover and TCU couldn't quite put together the drive they needed there at the end. Texas Tech was able to get Baron Morton back in this game, and having a more experienced signal caller, I think, proved to be the difference there for Texas Tech, as well as the fact that they were able to run the football, and TCU really struggled to do that in this one. So because of those reasons, Texas Tech was able to secure the win there in Lubbock, 35-28. So that's the one Big 12 result we already have down. But now let's provide some predictions for these Saturday games here in the conference in our final segment here on this episode of the Country Roads Webcast. Of course, we talked about the Mountaineers and the Cougars will be a night game there on Fox, 7 o'clock p.m. Let's lead it off here at noon with a very good contest that very well would have been game of the week, probably any other week here on the Country Roads Webcast. And this one has big implications for the conference title race, and that is Kansas State traveling to Austin to take on Texas at noon. They're also going to be televised on Fox. As we know, Texas is without Quinn Ewers, playing Malik Murphy there at quarterback. Got the win last week. Let's see if they can repeat that this week as Kansas State comes to town. Just red hot right now. Will Howard, back to a little bit more of the form he looked like last season. They've also been utilizing Avery Johnson at the quarterback position. Their defense is performing really well. Their offense seems like it's clicking at the right time. And as far as Texas is concerned, despite not having Quinn Ewers, seems like they didn't really miss a beat. Their defense is performing very well this season. Their defensive line is absolutely phenomenal. Because of those reasons, even though they don't have Quinn Ewers, I think this is going to be a very good football game that Texas has every shot in the world to win because of the talent they have there on that defensive line and on that defensive side. But, I made some crazy picks last week that paid off in my favor on the preview show. I picked Kansas to beat Oklahoma. That worked out well for me. So this week, let's go with another upset. Kansas State over Texas. I'm going with the Wildcats to beat the Longhorns here. Next game on the slate there will be our game of the week, of course. So let's move on to Houston taking on Baylor, 3:30 kick there. It's going to be on ESPN+. Both of these teams really struggling right now in the conference. So, you get a matchup of two teams really in desperate need of a win. I think that, Baylor's going to have the advantage over the newcomer in this one. Also, they're playing at home. Dave Aranda's back's against the wall. I like them to get the win over Houston. I'm going with Baylor there at that 3:30 kick. And then we have another 3:30 kick involving two Big 12 newcomers, both looking to get, a conference win here. And that is, of course, UCF and Cincinnati, as both of these teams are currently winless in the Big 12, 0-5 in the conference. One of the two will finally secure their first conference win this week. Cincinnati's playing at home. That might be an advantage for them. They also appear to have, a pretty decent defensive line of their own, so they may be able to get some stops in this game. But in my opinion, I think what this one's going to come down to is quarterback play. And, for Cincinnati, they've been having a pretty good run game this season. As I said, their defense has even had some standout performances, but I think the quarterback play has left a little bit to be desired on their side, whereas UCF, their issue has certainly not been offense. They've been very explosive on that side. They've just been struggling to get stops on the defensive side, but because of the fact they have an advantage at the signal caller position, I like Rice Plumlee over Emory Jones. I'm going to go with UCF to finally get their first conference win on the road there on that 3:30 kick on FS1. And then the other night game in the Big 12 this week, of course, Kansas traveling to Iowa State, another one that has big implications in the conference title race. Both of these teams are currently matched up in that tie for first place in the conference. It's currently, spread across 5 different teams. Kansas coming off a huge win over Oklahoma. Iowa State may be the surprise of the conference race following their slow start to the season and with the gambling scandal that happened. I don't think a lot of people were expecting them to be in this position, but it's a night game there in Ames. That's tough enough in and of itself. 7 o'clock kick on ESPN, so Kansas is going to have their hands full. We know Ames is a very challenging place to play, and I think, looking at this, Iowa State, if they can force Kansas to, be one-dimensional and shut down the Kansas rushing attack, then I think Iowa State, really has an advantage in this game, especially when you add in the fact that they're playing at home. Kansas may be having a little bit of an emotional hangover coming off that Oklahoma game. So I know it's crazy after I just picked Kansas to beat Oklahoma last week and was really riding their coattails. I still think Kansas has a great chance to win this game. It's a true toss-up for me. I went back and forth on who I was going to pick, but Iowa State being at home at night and their defense always being their calling card, and maybe if they have a chance to slow down Kansas, or if any team in this conference has a chance to slow down the Kansas rushing attack, I think it's Iowa State, especially playing at Names there at Jack Trice at night. So I'm going to go with the Cyclones there in that one, which brings us to our game of the week here in our Around the Big 12 segment here in week 10 of the college football season. And this one is big, of course. Yet again, conference title implications, as I've said, for a few games in this slate. But this one is very big because we know Oklahoma's leaving the conference after this year. And this is Bedlam, guys. We know it's one of the biggest rivalries in college football, and this could very well be the last time we get to see it get played for who knows how long. And, Oklahoma didn't want to continue the series. Oklahoma State did, so Oklahoma State probably had this game circled all year. It's in Stillwater. Ton of motivating factors for Oklahoma State. No one's been able to stop Ollie Gordon just yet, but I think if you're a Mountaineer fan, you got to be rooting for the Sooners. I know that feels crazy to say, but, for West Virginia's path to potentially get to that conference title game, they would need some help. They would have to win out. But, where they've already lost to Oklahoma State, they would need Oklahoma State to be knocked down a peg. So West Virginia fans should probably be rooting for the Sooners in this one. And for that reason, I'm going to try and will a Sooners victory into existence by picking Oklahoma over Oklahoma State in this game. Although I think the deck is kind of stacked against Oklahoma. Oklahoma State's ready for this one. Mike Gundy's hungry for this one. It's in Stillwater, 3:30 kick, nationally televised there on ABC. It's going to be a crazy game. I'm glad West Virginia's playing later in the day, so we'll get a chance to tune into this, what could be the final Bedlam game ever. Ollie Gordon's going to be tough to stop, but I think, Oklahoma has had a good defense this season. If they can make Oklahoma State one-dimensional, you like their chances as well. I know Oklahoma State's going to pull out all the stops, so, my gut feeling is Oklahoma State wins this game, but with the implications for West Virginia that would be involved with an Oklahoma victory, I'm going to try and, pick that and wish it into existence. So I'm going with the Sooners over the Cowboys in our game of the week here on episode 177 of the Country Roads Webcast. All right, Mountaineer Nation. So there you have it. That will pretty much get ready to wrap us up here on Season 6, Episode 177 of the CRW podcast, our BYU preview and predictions episode, where we've done just that, broken down the matchups, provided our key to victory and score prediction here on the Country Roads Webcast, as well as some picks for other games happening around the Big 12 Conference. And it's been a very fun episode. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed listening to this one. Like I said, know it's coming a little bit later in the week, but as they say, better late than never, right? Wanted to be sure and get episode 177 out to you guys and look forward to, recapping it with you guys following the game. Hopefully it's coming after another West Virginia victory, and these Mountaineers will be bowl eligible the next time we talk about them here on the CRW podcast. But we appreciate you guys tuning into this one, whether you watched it or you listened to it. We appreciate you taking it in on any platform you choose to do so, and we will have plenty of West Virginia sports content coming at you as both basketball and football seasons are running simultaneously right now. So be sure check us out on social media for updates on when we release our Mountaineer sports content. You can do that by following us on X at WVU Country Roads, and then Facebook and Instagram, or just Country Roads Webcast, as we look to end the football season on a positive note and hopefully tip off the basketball season in the same way. But we'll be covering it all here on the Country Roads Webcast, and we really appreciate you guys that tune into that content. Having said that, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineer.
If you really want to know, then come on, let's go. Take a stroll down those